we're back at it. Season 11 is here, and I wasn't even really sure where to start with all of this new stuff. I mean, I wasn't playing on PvE or anything, so I was getting information trickled down to me through Twitter and things like that. So this is going to be a very long-winded video. So I would like pause now and get some coffee or something. I mean, in the past couple days since preseason hit, I've had about 5 liters of coffee. Just trying to organize how everything is going to go in how I understand this season, and like if I should even bother like updating the guide, because there's just so much stuff that's changed. But I wanted to highlight some items that I think will be particularly useful. I mean, this video should hopefully serve as a shopping list, so you understand what are the good items and what are the bad items, and sort of navigate your way through whatever room page or build you're trying to go for, whatever vision for Singed you want to create. Just going with these items. So, okay, this is going to be a pain in the ass to go through. Right, so starting with mythics, you can only get one the entire game. So these are like the big crazy items that for the most part you want to be rushing. I mean, I know for example with Triton is actually not the best to be rushing mythics. This might translate into a couple of other champions, and it might also translate into Singed. So as the season develops, it might be the case that mythics just are too niche, or they're too awkward to build, or they're not effective enough compared to just buying legendary items, which are just the new normal full build items. This remains to be seen though. So as it stands currently at the beginning of season, well, at the beginning of the preseason, we're rushing a mythic item. That's the baseline for mythics. We build that first. We might be getting tier 2 boots beforehand. We might be getting a few other starter items beforehand. But I'll go into those as we progress. So, starting with Imperial Mandate, to my knowledge this is a support item, but obviously Singed has done well with support items in the past. The stats aren't that bad. Ability haste is a bit dead, if I'm honest. So is the mana regen, because the changes to Doran's Ring mean that Singed never has mana issues. So in Season 10, he had some mana issues, and it was partially defendable to get some mana regen going, or get some mana, even though mana on Singed is very... How do I put this? It's a very ineffectual stat. It's not useful. It doesn't directly impact your survivability or how well you're able to kill someone, because you normally never run out of mana if you are managing your Q correctly. So if you're double tapping in Season 10, then you never have mana issues. In this season, because of the Doran's Ring changes, which I'll get to at the end, you never ever have issues with mana. It's actually like, so long as you're killing minions, you pretty much have full mana, just because of how Singed farms. So yeah, the coordinate. I should clarify, by the way, I'm only considering Imperial Mandate because Friction, who is a challenger and a Singed player, has been entertaining the idea that Imperial Mandate is the mythic to go, and he was testing on PBE. I was keeping tabs on how he was developing his build, and this is something that he was very like confident on. So that's the only reason I'm really entertaining it. I personally think it's not great. I mean, it's 40 mana and 200 health, but it's a mythic item, and it does give you the 15 ability power per legendary you have, but I feel like that is a bit too slow. But also that point relies on games being as fast as they were in Season 10, whereas in Season 11 it might be the case that we start going back to like a Season 4 meta where games are going on for like 40, 50 minutes. I mean, yesterday I played my first hour game in about 3 years. So we might be seeing a movement towards that, which would be very interesting for Singed because it would make tank items a lot more effective on Singed if you go into a far later game. And this is more to do with a paradigm shift in Singed, where you're going from, okay, I need to be snowballing and hard carrying before 30 minutes or I'm useless, which was how Singed was played in Season 10, compared to now where it's like, okay, maybe Singed is taking on more of a scaling role, maybe we're building tankier, more survivability, trying to utilize these different tank items and these different AP assassin items to try and out-assassinate the enemy team, and then trying to ramp up and farm up enough so that we can win the game in late. Obviously, there's still speculation about this because we've only had preseason for a few days, but I'm feeling confident in how the season will pan out along those lines, just based on how everything is changing. Protobelt is now Hex Rocket Belt. It's basically the same. It gives you magic penetration, and it has the exact same passive. I didn't go over the passive for this, just because I'm not confident on it being useful. So I mean, I'll run through it quickly. So the abilities are slower, mobilized champions, so your fling, or if you have a Rylai's, then any of your abilities, or just your W. They do bonus magic damage. I haven't clarified this because Singed W doesn't do any damage in the first place. I'm unsure as to whether it will deal this baseline damage, or if, because it's bonus magic damage, it just won't do any damage on Singed W. I mean, it'll definitely do the damage on Singed E. So that could be like a good DPS boost. But it also marks them for 4 seconds, and like allies who hit you, like hit the enemy, get that extra damage. So the worry here is that as a top lane champion, you're not going to be hanging around with your team so much, especially if you're trying to scale. You're just going to be split pushing on the side lanes more so. So the idea of like having to rely on a teammate to get this extra damage so that you can get move speed, etc., etc., it's kind of iffy. I mean, it remains to be seen. I think Friction is having some good games with it, but I think as of right now, there's a lot of stuff that you can do well with, but it's trying to figure out what is the most optimal route to be taking. And I'm not sure Imperial Mandate's going to be that like amazing, insane item. Protobelt might be. I'm going to keep calling it Protobelt because the name change is silly. It makes no sense. Like, it's the exact same item. Like, the only thing they added was the move speed. Which I don't know. Because the function of taking Protobelt on Singed is that you can set up your E. So you Protobelt into them and then fling them. That's like the general gist of it. Like, that's the reason you take Protobelt. It also stacks Conk, but because of the Conk changes, I don't think we should be taking Conquer anymore. But this is a topic for a whole another video because honestly we will be here for like 4 hours. So having this move speed towards enemy champions after you use it seems kind of weird. Like it's almost like a mini Righteous Glory after you've already jumped into them, which doesn't really make any sense to me. Because what more do you want? I can sort of see it as a way of engaging as an AP carry. So you Protobelt onto the tank, you fling the tank, and then you get the move speed to run into the rest of the enemy team. And that is how I've sort of understood this change in direction. Like they're trying to make it so you still have a bit of like gusto after using Protobelt, because so, like, especially last season, like there would be times where you would Protobelt into someone, you'd fling them, and then you'd just be like sitting duck because you've just like Protobelted into the enemy team. With this, it gives you sort of an opportunity to escape or to get through the enemy team to deal like a lot of DPS with your poison trail. I haven't actually seen anyone utilize this very well. I know Socialist Singed has been playing it a fair bit, and this is the item he thinks is going to be the best. But I haven't really seen so much where he's getting fed off of Protobelt as opposed to just him playing very well. But obviously all of this needs more testing, and I'm going to keep saying that over and over again because, like, we don't have a very comprehensive picture yet, and I would like a comprehensive picture. We just don't have enough people testing and giving us information in, like, the Singed main Discord. So if you're watching this, then try everything out, and then send us, like, game results and how things went, stats and stuff like that. Would be really useful for getting a more full picture of how Singed is at the beginning of, well, even before Season 11 in the preseason. Obviously things are subject to change, but it's still nice to have a baseline of like understanding so that when things do change, we can understand how things are changing. Riftmaker is probably the most hyped mythic. People really, really like this, and for good reason. 15% Omni Vamp, the magic penetration, 80 AP, 150 health is a bit low, but I mean, we take that for the 15 Omni Vamp. And then Void Corruption for each second in combat, deal 3% bonus damage, max 15. Max strength, the bonus damage is dealt as true damage instead. So this is insane with Singed Q, because if someone's chasing you, they're just going to get absolutely demolished. So the whole premise of this is, if you just stick on them and your Q is constantly doing damage, then you're going to just absolutely melt them. So long as you can stay alive whilst you have Riftmaker, which is helped with the Omnivamp, like, you're just going to absolutely melt people. I think Riftmaker is probably going to be the best, but we haven't fully figured out the build for it yet. I'm inclined towards getting Riftmaker as your first item and then building like off tank so you still have the survivability. I think that would be a really good build. But I haven't really tested it enough. Okay. So I'm going to clarify something, and I know this isn't in the right order, but with Leandre's Anguish, I think it's terrible now. Referring to my previous point about mana, that changing it from health to being mana is kind of useless. So the way you look at this item now is you ignore the mana. you just look at the 80 ability power and 20 ability haste, and then the 5 ability haste per item. And the issue here is with the ability haste mostly. So the passive is still fine. Like it works well with it basically functions the same as Riftmaker. However, ability haste is one of those things where it's really useful in some champions and really meh on other champions, and it's very meh on Singed, because your Q doesn't have any cooldown. It's like a toggle. So having the cooldown reduction, which this essentially is, it's just it's a more diluted way of doing cooldown reduction. I have a big graph and everything on how ability haste and cooldown reduction compare to each other and how they work. And I was going to make this into a video, but then everyone I showed it to was just like, this is too in depth and too boring. Like, do not make people suffer through this. But obviously, if you are interested in it, then you can find me in the Discord, just under the name Mark, and you can ask about it, and then I'll send it over. Um, but I'm not planning to make a video about it because it is really boring. But the takeaway is ability haste is just a more diluted version of cooldown reduction. You need more ability haste to translate into this, like, a good amount of cooldown reduction. And obviously in Season 10 we didn't care about cooldown reduction because our E has a tolerable cooldown. It's not the worst. Like, for the most part, you don't really need your E that much more than you already get it. Your Q obviously is a toggle, so it's not affected. So I think Leandre's is actually a dead item now. It's not force singed. So goodbye. It was fun whilst it lasted with Leandre's, but we just have better alternatives now for the same effect. So Night Harvester. And I should say ability haste, like, we don't care about so much. It's just like an added bonus because ability haste is on like almost every item. The passive for this is kind of bad as well because we don't really want our mythic passive to be giving us ability haste. But this is quite nice. So damaging a champion deals an additional blah 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 magic damage and grants you 25 move speed. And this is 40-second cooldown per champion. So the dream here is you're going into a team fight. They got everyone on their team. You've got Night Harvester. You run in with your Q on. You run through them. Your Q procs on every single one of them. So 25% move speed on one person, then on the other person, then the other person. You just zoom through everyone. And the idea is you're building AP, so you just run in. You're so fast that they don't have a chance to just shut you down or lock you down. You run through the enemy team, do a bunch of damage, get out on the other side alive, and then you can wrap back around and you basically just rip the enemy team apart. I haven't seen enough testing with it yet, but that is the like idealized dream, because like running fast is fun. I don't know how better to explain it. Like, there's something very, very gratifying about running through 5 enemy champions and then just zooming through them. It should be noted though that the 25% move speed doesn't stack. It's not like you're gonna get like 125% move speed. It's just extends it. A little tooltip down here. Damaging a new champion will extend the duration of the move speed bonus. So you run in, you get the move speed bonus, you run through another person, it's extended, you keep getting it, and then you just like are free to run around wherever. Like, you just run across the map. It's a nice idea. I think it has some niche applications in certain team comps, especially if they don't have much like hard CC. I think you could do like absolute like chaotic team fights with this item and get away with it. So Turbo Chem Tank, a lot of people have been saying it's good, a lot of people have been saying it's bad. I personally think it's really good. It's basically some Fire Cape and Righteous Glory put into one, but you also have like some synergies with enemy turrets, so it's actually quite nice with proxying. I quite like this item for a full tank proxy build I've been working on. Like, full tank proxy doesn't actually feel that bad anymore, especially considering how the meta is sort of shifting to being like scale. The amount of damage you actually do to minions and enemy champions is actually quite insane. I mean, last season we didn't really like Bambi Cinder. I mean, Minishkat picked it up at the end of the season as like a viable thing, but that was met with quite a lot of scorn, especially from me. I like, the numbers just didn't work out in favor of spending 900 gold that early in the game just to not build it into a Sunfire Cape, because obviously the build you were going, you wouldn't want Sunfire Cape, and you still don't want Sunfire Cape. Don't get me wrong, you don't want Sunfire Cape just because Turbo Chem Tank is like a nice item. Sunfire Cape is arse. Never forget how bad that item is on Singed. But I mean, having the Immolate now, especially if you're playing proxy, is actually really decent because you already have the other stats you need. You have the AP, you have the like sustain from Doran's Ring, and if you decide to go Corrupting Potion, but I don't think Corrupting Potion is necessary anymore. I think it's just nice to have for the extra damage and extra health. But if you're proxying, then the Immolate passive is actually really good. Just because you just insta-clear waves pretty much. And then the Supercharged active has like a lot of applications. I mean, it's basically just Righteous Glory, and Righteous Glory had a lot of good applications, but it was very lackluster in its stats and like the ability to do a lot of damage. So when you picked up Righteous Glory in Season 10, if you picked up as first item, your clear was terrible because you just don't have any damage going along with it. But the nice thing here is with Immolate, you are sort of negating that issue. So you still have good clear, and you can also just charge into people. And another thing, which I personally think this is the best thing about the entire item, is the passive. So getting Tenacity, which is like the best stat on Singed possible, and the Slow Resist are both like absolutely fantastic, and you can really feel this passive in game. Like this is one of the passives where it like actually fully translates. So once you have Turbo Chem Tank, if you just build any other like items, like you could go AP, you could go full tank afterwards. You really feel that tenacity and slow resistance buff. Like there's been a lot of games where I've just gone Turbo Chem Tank, and then from that point, without even having to do anything else, I've just gone like I've just bought Rylai's, and then I've just stomped. Like I'm just unstoppable. Like I don't like take damage. I don't get like trapped or anything. I don't get locked down. Like it's really underrated, I think. A lot of people are saying like tank Singed never again. I honestly think this is like almost akin to a return to like a Singed 420 type, going full tank, outscaling everyone, proxying all game. Like I genuinely think that is like a viable thing now, which is quite crazy. I mean, the only caveat with that is you need to know what you're doing with proxy. Obviously I could do the whole haha, you should check out this other video I made because I have a series on proxying, but I don't really care about the views. If you want to watch that video series, go for it. But I mean, like, there's a lot of information out there for proxying and how to proxy effectively. But I think Turbo Chem Tank is definitely a staple if you're playing proxy now. It's actually really fun to just go full tank and proxy all game. And it actually does like work out a lot. Because like a thing to note with the enemy turrets, it makes ganking mid after you've like done a proxy a lot more viable because you come in from behind. Because you're quite tanky now, you just run in from behind the turret, and you get that move speed buff when you get close to the turrets. So you're running in from like the enemy jungle from behind, and then just ganking the mid lane, and they can't really account for that. It's unlikely that they're going to be warding like behind their turret. So yeah, it's quite nice. The last mythic I have like seriously considered is Everfrost. I've tried this out a fair bit actually, and I don't actually think it's that great. I mean the 80 AP to 20 health is quite nice. The mana ability haste we could do without. Extra ability power like with the Imperial Mandate is fine. Like I think it's good for scaling. So here's the thing. Glaciate is actually really nice as an active. It's basically Hextech GLP, but it basically has the glacial passive built into it. So it will have like a line of cold, and like it actually roots now instead of just slowing. All of that's quite nice. Especially if you like. So if you're running towards someone and you use it, then you can root someone or slow people significantly, and then you can catch them, fling them, whatever. Um, Similar sort of reasoning to why you go Protobelt. The thing with this though is you actually have to stand still when you use it. Like, it stops your movement. It's unlike a GLP or Protobelt, so that's something that you have to like be aware of. Because there's a lot of times where I'll use it and then the people will be just outside range. It's sort of like a set W. Well, actually, it's exactly like sets W. Like you stop and it shoots out in that cone, and then if people are in the center, then like they get extra effects on them. Overall, it's quite a nice item though. I actually tried it in a build where I was going. What was I even doing? I was playing Singed mid with Electrocute, going full AP, but I built Everfrost as my item so I could catch the enemy Akali. It actually worked pretty well. Like, it was enjoyable. But I am kind of worried that it's gonna be a gimmick. It's sort of like how in season 10. Oh, was it season 10? Basically, when GLP came out and everyone was just like, oh, this is actually a really good item because then we can like gap close and we have forward extension, which is like an insanely useful thing on Singed. The Singed doesn't have any forward extension. So having an item that you can have forward extension with is actually a really good way of negating one of Singed's main weaknesses. But GOP fell off very quickly because people realized it was quite gimmicky. It was a very niche item, and the stats. It's unsure if the stats are really worth it for the cost, and if you're just buying a 3,400 item for the active, it's debatable whether that's worth it. In the case of GLP, it sort of fell out of fashion. Certain champions still took it and still do take it, but that's because their kit already allows for that. So like Leandre is going to do really well with Everfrost because her Q slows, her W snares, her E is like a good way of jumping onto someone and then using Everfrost. Basically makes it impossible if you're anywhere near Leandre to like move, which is exactly what she wants. But yeah, so that's all the mythics. I just wanted to quickly mention these. I can't remember what they call them now. They're like elites or something. There's something silly like that. So this is just Hextech Revolver, but it doesn't only affect your auto attacks now. You can use an ability. So people like Evelyn, for example, are going to really like this because their Q is going to do like a lot of damage, and then they're going to get the bursts from it. And I just wanted to mention these just because they're quite nice items as building blocks. I mean, at least these are the two that I think are particularly good. So, with this Hextech Alternator, what it is now, instead of Revolver, you use this to build into Hextech Rocket Belt or Night Harvester. And I think this is a really good thing about these two items because when you're building them, you're actually getting a lot of value from the items you're building. With things like Turbo Chem Tank, the building path is quite awkward because you will be building the Bammy Cinder, which is 900 gold, then you'll be building the oh my goodness, I can't remember what it's called. It's 900 gold as well, and it's it literally just gives you magic resist, which is sort of like a dead item unless you're against an AP laner. But if you're against an AD laner and you've just sunk 900 gold on just pure MR, it's a bit of a sticky one. So building Turbo Chem Tank is kind of a pain in the ass. But with this, you don't really have that issue with these two items because it's a really nice item to pick up, especially for this cheap. And the damage is actually quite insane. Like, you visibly notice when the revved passive procs. With Leeching Leer, it's actually quite good as well. I mean, I feel like it's a bit costly, but I'm only saying that because I'm used to a certain understanding of how much ability power and how much health is worth, and I haven't really considered Omnivamp. So Omnivamp might actually be worth a lot of gold. I just haven't played around with Omnivamp enough in this game because it's a relatively rare thing to have, at least in recent seasons. But it's still a nice item to pick up. I mean, I picked this up alone against Nikali when I was playing top lane, and I was able to just crush her. So I like these stats are quite sleeper. But the time in the game where you're picking up Leeching Leer, especially if you're building Riftmaker first, which, as far as we know, we should be doing with Mythics, about the time where you get it in game, it is actually quite significant to have the 20 AP, 150 health, and 10% Omnivamp. And obviously, it's quite nice having an impactful item as part of the building process for getting Riftmaker, which just bolsters Riftmaker as being one of the better options. Okay, we're gonna shift from all this AP stuff and have a quick look at all the defensive stuff. So, Spirit Visage had like quite minor changes. I'm just showing the old Spirit Visage, so this was Season 10 Spirit Visage compared to pre-season Spirit Visage. Not much difference. I mean, it's kind of nerfed. So you lose 15 magic resist, and you lose 5% of the healing effectiveness, and it costs 100 more. These are kind of... I don't want to call them negligible because I know someone will be like, well, actually, I think you'll find that this 100 gold difference is extremely significant. And they might be right. I don't think Spirit Visage is going to be the go-to magic resist item anymore. I think it's going to be there for like very niche cases. I mean, the base health regen is quite nice, but again, with Doran's Ring, because you are almost always on like near full mana, you actually do get health back a significant amount if you double stack the Doran's Rings. Ability haste, we're not massively fussed about. 450 health is fine. Like, it's the same health as before. It doesn't feel bad to have 450 health. Like, it's good stat line. The 40 magic resist, I'm not so sure about, especially considering how many AP items have been buffed. And also the fact that we're sort of... So at least in pre-season, we're in an assassin meta. So the aim of the game in pre-season is to just nuke the enemy before they nuke you. So losing 15 magic resist is actually kind of significant. Although historically magic resist has been less significant than armor, just because of the way items are created and the way magic resist is calculated. So it remains to be seen if the 15 magic resist is like a game changer, or if it's not really noticeable other than in the like item numbers. The alternative for magic resist now is Force of Nature, which I really, really like. I don't even know where to start with this. So, okay, so with the epic item, which is... I've ordered these poorly. So, Winged Moonplate, 150 health, grants 5% move speed. It's quite nice. It's not, like, insane, but it's 800 gold, which is quite cheap. And that builds into Force of Nature. Force of Nature, 350 health, 100 less than Spirit Visage, but we don't really care so much about health necessarily if we're in an assassin meta, because resists hopefully will protect us. And based on other items, we're still getting health anyway, so it's not the end of the world to lose 100 health in stats. The 16 magic resist is actually really good. It's akin to how Spirit Visage in Season 10 was our go-to AP resist item. Spirit Visage is sort of taking that place now. And I mean, the move speed is a lot better on Singed than it is on most other tanks. So we get that like edge on people. And the absorb passive, taking damage from abilities grants you 6 move speed and 4 magic resist for 5 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. That's actually really, really useful. So if you're just getting slapped about, so yeah, each unique ability. So this is essentially for team fighting. Unless you're playing against like something like Samira, but then like the magic resist doesn't really matter. But this is like 20 magic resist. So this is 80 magic resist overall, hopefully. And it's 30 move speed with the extra 5%. So that's like 36 move speed. If I'm not being an idiot, I might have got that completely wrong. I'm not gonna fact check myself here. But that's like a significant amount of move speed from one item. And also like we're not even considering like the move speed you get from boots, the move speed you get from your runes, etc., and other items that you might be wanting to build. For example, Dead Man's Plate. It's worth noting that where are we? Winged Moon Plate also builds into Dead Man's Plate now. So Dead Man's Plate and Force of Nature, they have that same epic item. But Dead Man's Plate is sort of gone the other way as Spirit Visage. So you actually get less resists now, but you get more health. And you also get the 5 move speed from the Moon Plate, which is quite nice. I don't think like anything at all has changed with the move speed aspect of it. I think it might have actually been buffed partially because the momentum decay was under the effect of stun, taunt, fear, polymorph, or immobilize effect isn't actually on the tooltip anymore. I don't know if that's still implicitly in the game or if that was removed. But if it was removed, then it's a minor buff to Dead Man's Plate. I mean, it's same cost. I think Dead Man's Plate is actually in a really good spot. Like it just helps Singed do what he does best, which is just catch people. Also, the fling auto attack with the the crushing blow or shipwrecker passive is really, really nice for just like locking down a carry. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I actually want to say about this. I don't think there is. I think that's really like just cut and dry. Like Dead Man's Plate is pretty similar to how it was before. I still think it's a good item. I think now that we're going into like a scaling meta, I think it's going to be better to be building tank items. So Dead Man's Plate is indirectly better than it was in Season 10 just because we're going to be building tank items a bit more. Exactly the same case with Rylai's. I mean, look what they did to my boy. Like, you get 50 extra health, which is quite nice. It's not like insane stats. The AP hasn't changed. It's 400 gold more, which is a bit painful, but you get 10% extra slow, which is actually quite significant in my eyes. I've tested it, and Rylai's really feels great. I mean, it felt great before. I would build Rylai's pretty much every single game. I know some people don't really like Rylai's, but I personally think it's a fantastic item on Singed. And just to see this buff, and I'm going to call it a buff because I feel like the extra 10% slow, and I mean the 50 health, but whatever, is actually worth the 400 gold increase. It does mean that, I mean, the main issue is the 400 gold increase, and that does cause a bit of an issue. I mean, there's been times where I've been trying to build Rylai's, and then it's been set back by 2 or 3 minutes because I just cannot like find a position in that moment in the game to get it, because normally you would be getting this as your second or third item. And around that time is when you're contesting objectives, you're trying to organize with your team more, and it can be tricky to find time to quickly pick up a wave without just the ADC or someone stealing it off of you. A lot of the times I've been resorting to killing raptor camps just to make ends meet. Right. And I'll clarify again just with legendaries. These are just normal items now. These aren't like unique ones that you can only have one type of. Okay, Cosmic Drive is an interesting one. I quite like it. 70 AP, 200 health, and dealing damage with abilities grants ability haste and move speed. I think the move speed is the important thing here. I think ability haste, with this much ability haste, can be actually useful because you're getting enough ability haste for it to actually translate into like some serious cooldown reduction. I think my overall views on Cosmic Drive though is you pick this up as like a third or fourth item, and it complements the rest of your items. It's not like a great item in itself. Like you would never build this like second or even first, but you would build it further into your build just because it complements your other items quite well. And around that time in the game is when you're going to be wanting to be using your abilities more, because once you hit that ceiling, and this is why Singed became useless after 30 minutes in Season 10, once you hit that ceiling, when you just get too late into the game for any more scaling, really, having this extra ability haste is what is going to be the game changer. Like, that's where you're going to be able to scale, because that's where you're sort of able to exponentially grow. But yeah, so Cosmic Drive is really good, but not really good. It's hard to gauge. Like, Cosmic Drive would be amazing as a later game item, but it's terrible early game. That's what I'm gonna say. That's how I leave it. If I keep talking about this, I'm just gonna get very confusing. Demonic Embrace is actually a really, 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 really good item. Definitely like top 3 items. Probably the best legendary you can pick up on Singed. 70 AP and 350 health is akin to how Leandre's was in Season 10. And dealing ability damage burns enemies for 1.5% max health, blah blah blah. But you gain 10 armor and magic resist if it's a champion that's affected. And then you get like extra bits of armor and magic resist for each champion affected, which is insane. It's like old Leandre's on steroids, which is crazy because Leandre's was actually one of the biggest damage dealing items that Singed could pick up. So great for tank busting, great for team fighting. You could do some a nice bit of synergy with the Night Harvester just running through the enemy team, and then having Demonic Embrace affect everyone. You can do some really, really, really good chunking with that, and that can those 2 items on their own can win you the team fight if you play it correctly. Thornmail comparison, similar to Spirit of Visage. You get extra health, less armor. The passive is exactly the same. It's a bit cheaper now. So Thornmail has an interesting history for Singed, where we take it to negate a lot of really, 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 really sucky lanes that heal a lot off of us. So think of Fiora, think of Aatrox, think of Olaf, think of Warwick even. We basically would pick up Bramble's Vest, which is the 800 gold item. Well, 800 gold now. Used to be 1,000. We used to pick this up and just try and negate people in lane. And then we would hope that by doing that, we would survive long enough to be able to get into the mid game. And then we could hopefully start snowballing off of other lanes and win the game like that. with the item changes, and especially this big movement towards grievous wounds being like on everything now. I should clarify, not everything, but it's on a lot more accessible items. Thornmail isn't the top dog anymore, and I don't know if it's worth building anymore, unless it's like a full AD comp and they have like 2 or more healers that will auto attack you. I think the conditions for actually finishing the Thornmail is a lot harder now than it was in Season 10, because even in Season 10 we wouldn't build Thornmail, we would just build Bramble, and only in extreme cases would we actually finish the Thornmail. So I think it's similar going into preseason, but I think it's going to be less valuable to actually finish the Thornmail. So yeah, Thornmail's sort of out. I think it will have its like niche uses, and it will still be effective in its role as Thornmail. But the opportunities we'll find for Thornmail to really be effective are going to be a lot less, because we just have better items now. So having a look at the epics, we've already gone over Bramble Vest. Nothing changed about the passive. Nothing changed about the armor. It's just 200 gold cheaper. Well, actually, I should clarify. 2 seconds, 3 seconds. That's it. So it's 1 less second of grievous wounds. I don't really see that as being like significant enough of a change to care about. Winged Moonplate is a nice item. It's kind of lackluster in stats for 800 gold. I mean, 800 gold does not translate whatever to 150 health. But the 5% move speed is actually pretty decent. You sort of build this a bit later though. So you would be building this as something you're building into like a 3rd or 4th item. If you're going like down a tanky route. Wardens Mail, I think personally is quite insane. I mean, 40 armor for 1000 gold, But the rock solid passive, if you're playing proxy, if you're playing full tank, it's ridiculous. In a full build, just the rock solid passive alone, you'll be taking about 20 damage from tower shots. Like, you really are rock solid with this. And this builds into Randuin's. I haven't included Randuin's in this because it's part of a very niche, like, full tank proxy build that I find it to be effective in. But the new Randuin's is actually really useful as well. Which I never thought I'd be saying, like, you should be building Randuin's and Singed. But for that niche build, it is actually really useful, and the rock solid passive is something that should not be slept on. It genuinely is really, really strong. I don't know how long it's going to be strong for. I think this is probably going to be one of the things that they like gut when they figure out like how broken it is. I'm surprised it made it to live like this. Because I mean, 40% of the attack is damage. Like, that's nuts. I can't gauge how, like, I can't do justice to how insane this item is, other than to say, like, in a full build scenario, if you have this item, then towers will do about 20 damage to you. I tested it and I was taking about 40 or so tower shots consecutively before I died in a full build situation with like the proxy tank items, which is way better than Singed 420's builds back in the day. These are the last of the epics that I think are interesting to note. Lightning Jewel is actually not so bad. Okay, so a lot of people would build like Sorcerer's Shoes, or they would be building the old Oblivion Orb to try and get some magic penetration into their build. You can do that cheaper now At least in the case of Oblivion Orb, because Oblivion Orb previously was 1,600 gold, and you would sort of be building that for a bit of AP and primarily for the magic penetration. This is a 1,250 item, bit of AP, magic penetration. It's quite useful, and it's cheaper. So this is going to be replacing your Oblivion Orb from Season 10. Verdant Barrier is... I wouldn't say it's bad. I think it's quite good. You're just stacking magic resist. This is something you buy like early on in a lane, and you will sort of sit on it. It's sort of like comparable to Seeker's Arm Guard. Like you're just building up resists with it, and you sort of sit on it for a while in lane if you're against like heavy AP. So it's basically just an AP version of Seeker's Arm Guard. But I think it actually gives more stats than Seeker's Arm Guard did. So I think this is slightly better, but again, with magic resist, it's less effective than armor, so you need to keep that in mind. So I think they will be roughly equal. New Oblivion Orb, half the price, 30 AP, doesn't have any of the magic penetration anymore, and dealing magic damage applies grievous wounds. So this is what you're going to be picking up instead of Bramble Vest, maybe, instead of Thornmail, definitely. But this is nice because if you deal magic damage, so your fling, your Q apply grievous wounds. So it's basically like a full built Morellonomicon. Okay, starting items. This looks really convoluted. Oh, I'm dying now. I did say this was going to be a long one. Starting items is very, 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 very simple right now. Dark Seal has been gutted. It's not really that useful anymore. We really liked Dark Seal for the 25% increased healing from potions. Not there anymore. They replaced the 100 mana and the healing from potions with 40 health. Doesn't really translate. The stacks, meh. We never really cared about the stacks. It was just a nice added bonus. If we started doing well or winning our lane, it helped us snowball a bit. We're not really seeing that anymore. So like, vamos, goodbye to Dark Seal. It's not good now. It's not worth picking up as starter item. Old Doran's Ring, meh. New Doran's Ring, yes. This is the best thing ever. I love it. This is my computer background now. Obviously the physical attack is nice for CSing. We don't really care about it too much. 70 health, 15 ability power, quite good for 400 gold, especially at the beginning of the game. The health helps negate the nerf that Singed got to his early game in Season 10, where he lost about 50 health off of his base health. And that really did a number on him for his early game, like, kill potential. But the Siphon passive is so absolutely broken, it's insane. Killing a minion restores 6 mana, so that's half of one puff of your poison. And if you're on full mana, then you get health back instead. So if the way Singed farms, because you'll be able to farm multiple minions with the same puff of Q, you can quite easily get an excess of mana, because if you spend 13 mana, whittle down like 4 minions, then you use another 13 mana, whittle the rest of it down, and then use another 13 mana to get the last little bit, then you're spending 39 mana, you're killing 4 minions. Each one of those minions is going to give you 6 mana back, so you spend about 39 mana, you are getting... I'm having a brain fart. 24 mana back, so that's about a deficit of like 15, which is insane, because you're only losing just a little bit over one of those double taps. And this, like, if you utilize your mana correctly, I was doing some testing with proxying. If you utilize your mana correctly, you can clear the first wave of minions at level 1 with a deficit of 10 mana, which is so crazy. Like, you don't have mana problems anymore on Singed. And if you get another Doran's Ring, these stack. Crazy. They're probably going to make it a unique passive because it's really broken. But getting 12 mana back per minion kill, if we think about that deficit from before, so spending 39 mana, getting 24 back, that's going to be completely like thrown out because you're actually getting more mana back than you used to kill things. Really, really, really OP. Honestly, I can't praise the new Doran's Ring enough. Definitely start this item regardless of if you're proxying or laning. And definitely get 2. I think if you get 2, then it's actually like OP. But like, don't even think about like a Doran's Shield or something stupid like that. Like, Doran's Ring is the way to go. Corrupting Potion wasn't changed at all. It's indirectly nerfed because obviously we don't have the Corrupting the Dark Seal compatibility with Corrupting Potion, so we don't get that extra 25% on the numbers for Corrupting Potion. But I still think it's a good item. I mean, if you start Doran's Ring with the 2 health pots, then you proxy the first 3 waves and you manage to kill the cannon minion, then if you execute, then by the time you get back to base or by the time you respawn, you will have just about hit 500 gold. So you can buy this in full on your first back if you want, or you can go another Doran's Ring and get 2 health pots. It's up to you. This is going to be a crazy season to figure out. I'll probably be doing like a full update of the guide. I might be making more videos explaining like how the runes have changed, how we should understand what runes are good right now. At the moment, I'm testing Fleet, I'm testing Phase Rush, I'm testing Electrocute, I'm testing Dark Harvest, I'm testing Aftershock. I'm not testing Conqueror. I think Conqueror is dead. I mean, I even tried out Omnistone just to see what it was like. Don't try Omnistone; it's not great. Glacial might even be viable now with the Everfrost item. Although that would be a very spicy pick. So, yeah, there's a lot to work through, and I hope this is good enough video for helping you sort of figure out what to buy in your shop. I think that's it. I mean, there's obviously other videos to be made, but like, there's a lot of work. Like, I barely even play the game anymore, and I'm sitting here having to play a bunch of different builds every single day, all day, just to try and like get a good understanding of how the items fit into the game. The last note I'll do is just to say Singed is either really OP or he's really terrible right now. And we're not going to know for a little while how that works, because we have to rely on every other champion main like community. So like the Fiora mains, the Tryndamere mains, the Silas mains, I guess. We're going to have to see how they figure it out. So how they figure out the season is how we will understand the season better. So we have to give it time. We have to give the people who do research for these champions time to develop their ideas. Like, obviously, I would be able to give you a much more comprehensive understanding of how the new items have shaped the new league meta and like how the game functions. But going into a Singed versus Fiora matchup, I don't know exactly how significant the changes have been for Fiora. I mean, if a Fiora builds Divine Sundra, which is a new item which is really, really strong, it's basically like a Lich Bane for AD champions. If a Fiora builds that, how does a Singed player address that? How do we deal with that? It's just those little things where I need to know how the entire game is working to be able to fully understand how Singed is working. And we're not going to find that out for a little while because people are going to be playtesting everything. So now I think now is the best time to be checking out streamers, check out Socialist Singed, check out Searches, check out Matthias, formerly Tommy309. Be checking out Minish Cap. Because obviously people like streamers like that are doing it for entertainment, but during these early phases where we don't know anything, it's good to just watch as many games as you can because they're trying to figure it out as well, so they know what they should be building and what they can succeed with, so they can make good content. So yeah, really just spam games, watch a lot of streams. Oh, and Proxy Ginger, watch Proxy Ginger. I can't believe I forgot him. But yeah, and also if you're testing anything out, just let us know in the Discord. Just like slap up your game. It doesn't matter what elo you're in. You could be playing in Iron 4. It really doesn't matter. Because every game like counts towards like understanding how things are working. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling now. It's done. It's finished. The video's over. Finally, first upload in like 4 months.